Hey, welcome back to the Pit Trail. I'm CJ Macklin. I'm sitting down with our very own Kevin McPherson with this week's Hog Hoops Report. Big football game last night, but probably going to be even more bigger football game this weekend. Alabama coming to town. A whole lot of football recruits coming to town, but Kevin, also a lot of basketball recruits coming to town. Talk about some of those recruits that will be coming to the Hill.
Yeah, well, it's going to start with a couple of official visitors. You know, our Razorback fans have been anticipating these guys getting on campus. They were originally set to visit September 16th through 18th when Arkansas, that was just last weekend when Arkansas hosted Missouri State, and they moved that out to the end of the month. So September 30th through September 2nd or October 2nd, and that October 1st football day. It's a big one. The players will be there, but we're talking about the five-star Bay Fall. Yeah. 6'11" forward center, top 15 rated nationally. Here's a guy that when you look at Arkansas's track record with big men, they get a lot of really good guards, but big men that are highly rated don't just grow on trees. I know that's a cliche, but it's true. And Arkansas is in line to land this guy and his teammate, 6'10" Asani Diop, who's more of a perimeter big. I mean, he can play around the basket as well, but these guys complement each other. I say it all the time. ESPN ranks Diop number 57 high-level four-star. So you've got a top 15 five-star, a highly rated four-star that are teammates. I still believe they're a package deal. I can end up being wrong on that final assessment. We'll see how it plays out. And I still believe Arkansas is in the lead for both of these players. They've already visited Rutgers, took an official visit there. They'd taken other visits before, but just in recency, it's been Rutgers. Earlier in the month of September, they canceled a scheduled official visit to Texas. That's not been rescheduled. And they have a visit coming up midweek. This is a little unusual. They're both going to be at Seton Hall midweek. And on the heels of that visit, they'll be on their way to Northwest Arkansas and Fayetteville. They're supposed to arrive in the afternoon on Thursday, actually, which is the 29th. So they should be arriving then with the visit starting up on Friday, the 30th. And so we'll see how that goes as far as an official visit. Now, both of these players, by the way, CJ, took unofficial visits to Arkansas for the big win over Kentucky at Bud Walton Arena in February. Right. They spent some time with the coaching staff and at the Basketball Performance Center after that game was completed. But it was quite everything I got from it and heard from it on both sides was that it went really, really well. And Arkansas just continued, I think, to build those relationships. Didn't report this week. I didn't see it reported elsewhere. So we're going to have a little bit of a breaking news. Eric Melsman within the past few days, within the past week, actually went out to see both players. It's just, at least the second time Arkansas has been out to Denver to see recruits, to see these two recruits since the recruiting period that the NCAA opened back up on September 9th. So this past week, Eric Melsman went and made that visit. I still believe Arkansas's in the lead here. But again, you talked about maybe the craziest football atmosphere Arkansas's had in a while. It might have been a little crazier had business been taken care of last night. I don't want to dwell on that. But I will say that there's no doubt about it. That's going to be one of those game atmospheres that you want recruits to see, whether it's football recruits, basketball, or any other sport, because it's going to be a little bit different energy in football when Alabama's in town. The same way when Arkansas hosted Kentucky and they got to see that firsthand at Bud Walton Arena, they're going to see another game day atmosphere. But I think, when you look at this, I think these guys are going to make a decision. I believe they'll make a decision in time to sign in the early period, which is just in mid-November. That's not far out from now, less than 2 months. So I think a decision will be made. By the way, Arkansas is still very much in play for Ron Holland, the five-star 6'8" forward, combo forward. He's starting to develop more wing skills, but a five-star top 10 in the country out of Duncanville, Texas, teammates with Anthony Black at Duncanville last year. They won a Texas State championship, was a spring and summer teammate grassroots season before last with Jordan Walsh with Drive Nation program out of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So he's got those Arkansas ties, and the Razorbacks have made him a priority. They've been in to see him multiple times. Arkansas, Keith Smart was out. I believe it was Keith Smart out this past week to see him. So Arkansas's, been to Duncanville to see him multiple times, including Eric Melsman on that first day, that September 9th date, when the recruiting period opened back up. But it's really interesting because his mom, Ron Holland and his mom have been putting out tweets with hourglasses and some things to kind of tease the decisions coming up. Now, he may still take some quick unofficial visits, just, I guess while he's still working through his decision. There's been some talk that maybe he'll come and visit Arkansas that same weekend we just talked about. That could happen. A couple of sources I have, both in his camp and familiar with what Arkansas is thinking, is as of now, it doesn't look like it will happen, but those things can change really quickly. And Arkansas's campus is not too far away from DFW, so that could change, and we're going to keep an eye on that. As of now, maybe not, but we'll see. And how interesting would it be to have that 5-star on campus with Bay Fall, the other 5-star Hassani Diop? You look at what Arkansas did in recruiting in this last class, ranked second when you look at the high school class, 6 players, but you had 3 5-stars. So Eric Musselman's not afraid to put multiple high-level guys in the room together or on the same visit weekend, so to speak, because it's not about you only get, aim low, you might only get one. You're aiming high. You're casting that wide net, and every time you can get them back on campus. So we'll see how that plays out with Holland. Also in recruiting, I want to mention K-Honor Boateng, who Arkansas has really pursued since offering him class of 2024. Now we're moving away for 2023. But here at Little Rock Central, plays with the Arkansas Hawks spring and summer program. But he's been a guy that's been not only on Arkansas's radar, has had an offer. Coaches have, when you look at how many times they've come out to see him, really have made him a recruiting priority. But back in town, we talked about this last week, that first week of the period opening up. But he just earned a 5-star status through Rivals updated its recruiting rankings for class of 2024 on Wednesday. He jumped 41 spots to number 13, which is a 5-star. And when you look at some of the other recruiting services that updated, one of the newer services, but it's a national service, on3.com, they moved him up to number 12. So you see him, you see a little bit of consistency there. ESPN's got him number 44 in their top 60, a little further back. But at K-Honor Boateng is climbing those charts. And again, he took 2 unofficial visits to Arkansas in a span of 5 weeks in the summer. Like I said, Arkansas coaches continue to go out and see him. But what Honor Boateng's really done, in my opinion, he's always been a specimen, 6'5", pushing 6'6" now. Coach told me he measured 6'5" and a half, so he's almost a 6'6" now. But he's always been chiseled and athletic. I mean, just gifted. He's an elite athlete with explosiveness as a slasher, above the rim finisher. He stuffs a stat sheet because he can rebound. He's a superior on-ball defender. I need to say that. But he's really added some ball skill, some craft to get into mid-range shooting. And then his three-point shot, he's getting more arc on that, a little more patient, getting his feet set. So he's starting to improve, his consistency and his efficiency shooting the ball. And I think that's what's carried him up. Had a huge July, averaged 25 points on one of the national Adidas 3SSB circuits earlier in the month, and then had another strong performance at the Open Championships in California when Musselman was courtside along with Gus Arsenal. So not only did Boateng achieve that 5-star status, CJ, he's also been invited to Team USA Junior National Training Camp, Team USA Basketball. Then that'll be later on in October. I think the 7th. I think it's the 7th. Begins on October 7th through the 10th. At any rate, he's been invited, as has Arkansas's lone 2023 commit, 5-star Layden Blocker from Little Rock. So you've got some Arkansas flavor being invited into that camp. And that, they'll invite for that mini camp, they're bringing 23, 24, 25, and 26 classes, players represent each one of those classes. So, to have a couple of representatives from the state of Arkansas is always a big deal. So I think that's, that's really key. And then one other thing I'll just mention, when I look back at the week where Arkansas went out, I mentioned they went out and saw Bay Fall and Hassani Diop. Musselman did. He also went and saw Zayden High. We haven't talked about him, from Spring Branch, Texas, 6'9" forward center. He's got a lot of Jalen Williams soft skills on offense. It reminds me a little bit of Williams. We talk about that guard play IQ out there for a big man out on the floor. But he's now at Arizona Compass Prep, and Musselman got out to see him last weekend as well. So, that one's been a little off the radar. We're going to see if Arkansas can work in a visit. Maybe North Carolina's in the lead for him. We keep an eye on Wesley Yates, who still hasn't scheduled, the 6'4" guard out of Beaumont, Texas, class of 2023, still hasn't scheduled a visit to Arkansas. But when you start looking at really 2023, I think things start picking up. And just to wrap this up for the recruiting portion, things really start to kind of pick up for keeping your eyes on it when these two visitors come in for their official visit, Fall and Diop, this coming weekend. And we'll see if Ron Holland makes it back, as well as other unofficial visitors, which we're going to keep. We're not going to talk about specific names on that right now, but we'll get more out on that as the week progresses.
That's a pretty big get for the Razorbacks, jumping 41 spots and going to a 4 to 5 star. That is huge. It's going to be a big weekend for Hog football, Hog recruiting for football and basketball, but it's also going to be a big week for the Razorbacks basketball squad because full practice goes into effect this week. How huge is this for the Razorbacks as the season is right around the corner now?
Well, it's big. You can look at we kept talking about what a huge benefit those 10 full practices were in July, and then getting to play games against opposition, getting to go on the road and not only get some culture, as I scratch my nose and use the word culture, overseas, but you got games against real competition, CJ. And I think, all of that's important when you have 11 newcomers. I also think it was important that maybe when they came back home to dial it back down to limited practice, they were forced to do that by the NCAA rules, but maybe that was a good thing to get fresh, not burn out. Musselman gets a lot done in limited time in practice as it is. So I think you had another, 4 weeks or so of that limited practice when you get back. So I think things are falling into place. I think you ramp back up now. You're ready to ramp back up. You're just over a month out from the November 7 start to the season, about 6 weeks. So I think, I think that plays in well with what Arkansas is trying to do with these 11 newcomers. So much talent, we talk about it. But when you get back to full practice now, I really think, again, I don't know how much Arkansas is going to focus on live 5-on-5 scrimmaging. They never have put a lot of stock in that now, and I don't think that they did much of that when they got back off that trip. But I do wonder, do they step that up just a little bit? Because again, I think there's a lot of things to sort out in terms of rotation and guys maybe trying to catch up. And so you really don't get as good a feel for that unless they're competing. Yep. So I'm going to be interested to find out, and I'll ask Eric Musselman when we have our next press conference what they're doing there. But I think, focusing on defense. It's been the calling card of the program under Musselman and all the success they've had. It started on that end. We talk about that all the time. I know they've remained focused on that. Ball handling and passing drills. A lot of turnovers in Europe. A lot of turnovers.
Yeah. A lot of turnovers.
And so I think they had to work on that as well. And I know they did. They had some drills for that. Shooting has been a problem. 3-point shooting, not great. And then I would say it's continued in practice. We know it was 28% in Europe. Carried over to practice when they got back. They're 5-on-0 shooting drills. Guys weren't able to seem to knock down threes. And so that was a problem last year. Arkansas overcame that by being blue collar, getting to the free throw line, getting to the basket. This team attacked the basket beautifully in Europe. I expect that's going to be the DNA offensively, but you got to get to the free throw line when teams try to prevent you from getting the easy shot. And we didn't see Arkansas dominate the free throw line in Europe. A lot of that had to do with that was officiating there. Right. There's no reason to think this team won't continue that trend of Eric Musselman teams getting to the line and then cashing in. And so finishing at the rim in transition, I think this is going to be his best transition team.
I'm looking forward to this.
It's going to be really key that they're sound defensively, and including transition defense, because you want there to be a wide gap in your transition offense and your opponent. Arkansas's got to figure out a way to be as good as they can be, or as great or elite as they can be in these phases that don't necessarily include 3-point shooting, because so far that's been a bugaboo. We'll see if some of that gets ironed out, but I feel like if you'd know by now if you had a decent 3-point shooting team, and so there may be some concern there. Having said all that, I love the length and size on this team and athleticism. So when we get back to full practice, CJ, we're talking about now it's been important up until now. They've been serious about stuff. But now you ramp it up. You got so much more time on the court with the players. That jumps up significantly. And then you hope to start seeing guys turn corners that maybe aren't where you want them to be. And then guys who are already figuring into probably your 5 to 7 rotation, see whatever their weaknesses are, continue to, maybe they improve on, and guys start to gel. And we know it doesn't matter how much you think that this time of year, 2 back-to-back Elite 8 seasons, national top 10 finishes, and you didn't get things sorted out until mid-January. And with 11 newcomers, you're going to expect there's going to be some bumps in the road. Yep. And I want to talk about the schedule a little bit because that's going to be important.
Yeah.
as Arkansas looks to finally get that schedule out. There's one game now that we still don't know about.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. Look, bugaboo. I got to put bugaboo in my dictionary because that was a good one.
That's an old man. That's an old man way to say a problem.
And last but certainly not least, we talked about the current Hogs. Let's talk about the former Hogs, the pro Hogs that came from the University of Arkansas. They're getting ready for preseason. It's right around the corner. We talked about Razorback basketball. Preseason is here, people. And NBA is about to start as well. Talk about the preseason and those games that are coming up very, very soon.
Yeah, so teams are, you look through the weekend, a lot of the NBA teams are having their media days. So they're starting out, they're officially getting their training camps underway. These things don't last long anymore. They're pretty quick.
Yeah.
Then you jump right into a week or so of preseason games, a couple of weeks, and then the season opening days, October 18th. That's less than a month away.
Yeah.
And you've got two former Hogs playing on national television on TNT in a doubleheader on opening night. You got Moses Moody and Golden State, the defending champs. It's ring night. Golden State just announced this week, by the way, that they've signed former Hog great Dusty Hannas, the sniper, man. He's more than a sniper from three. He can manufacture buckets anywhere.
Yeah.
They didn't disclose, and I need to find this out. I did not disclose if it's a two-way deal, if it's one of those exhibit 10s or limited contract, but he's going to be part of their training camp at least, at minimum. So that's always good to hear. Like I said, ring night for Moses Moody on opening night. They host the Lakers. So, that's a big stage against the, arguably I guess it is the most, known NBA team out there.
Yeah.
And then you got Isaiah Joe in Philadelphia on TNT. It's a doubleheader on opening night against, I believe, the Celtics. So, we're going to get Razorbacks front and center to start things off. And, you look at the pro Hogs, back-to-back NBA titles for pro Hogs. When you look at Moody and the year before, Bobby Portis with Milwaukee, he signs the big contract in the offseason. Looks like he's there to stay, maybe a buck for the rest of his career. But a guy that continues to work hard. Bobby Portis has always worked hard. Whatever he brings to the floor, there's sheer effort in what he brings to the practice floor, to his workouts, the things that we don't see. And so he's one of those guys, and it's always good to see. But in my opinion, right now, in the last few years since Joe Johnson's effectively been out of the league, he's kind of been that centerpiece of the pro Hog in basketball.
Yeah.
Maybe the ambassador, if you will. But you got guys, like I said, Moses Moody, Isaiah Joe, Daniel Gafford. Season 4, I think this could be a breakout year for Gafford. We're going to really keep an eye on that. He's too gifted in too many areas not to be more consistent. I'm not trying to bag on him here. I'm just saying he's the kind of guy that I think can take another step. So I'm really interested to see what he does. But, when you look around the league, Mason Jones, we'll see if he sticks around on a two-way deal and gets some NBA run this season. And then you look at a guy like Stanley Amudi, who we haven't heard much about since the summer league. Had a good summer league. Let's see what happens with him. So basketball, I always say it's year-round, but now that we got Arkansas Razorbacks in full practice, ramped, we know we can smell it, right? Yes, it's football season, but basketball's here and it's gearing up at all levels. And one other thing I want to say is we still haven't seen Arkansas, the Razorbacks schedule for 2020, 22-23, CJ. We know 30 of the games. A lot of those have just been through leaked sources. Arkansas's acknowledged some of the non-conference games. The SEC schedule's been out. They released game times and TV designations this past week. So Arkansas, for the first time, so we know about 30 games. There's one more to learn about. We found out that Arkansas is going to host Troy, by the way, this past week, on November 28th, which is right after they get back from Maui Invitational. That's probably going to be their first game back at Bud Walton Arena after returning from that trip. That 3-game event, that's a big deal nationally. But we know that when I look at the TV schedule, one game on CBS in the regular season finale at home on March 4th against Kentucky. Then you've got 17 more games on the ESPN family networks. That's ESPN, ESPN2, or ESPNU. 17 more games. So combined 18 games of fully nationally televised games out of 30. That may be unprecedented. I need to go back and see if there's a way to research that. I don't think the basketball program, even at its peaks at different times, had that many nationally televised games in a season, in a regular season. They might have. And that's just something I need to go back and look at, but I don't think so. And I think that says a lot. It speaks a lot to where Arkansas has been as a program, not only in final results, but the marketing. When you recruit 3 5-stars and have the #1 overall class, when you add the portal, there's a lot of interest in what Arkansas is doing in basketball right now. And we already believe that. But when we see national networks like an ESPN that's basically at the top of the sports broadcast food chain,
Right.
when you see them make Arkansas a priority, you know that it's understood and recognized nationally.
That is true. And if anybody's going to find out about the schedule in unprecedented times, I know you're going to do that, Kevin. Kevin, as always, I appreciate you stopping by, man, for the Hog Hoops Report.
Oh, it's good to be with you, CJ. And back-to-back weeks where the allergies kicked in. They're
back to back. It's kicking my butt.
I don't mind coughing during the segment if I can recover.
Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Look, we got more Pick Trail coming up after the break.